Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 35 of my Industrial Revolution 3 playthrough. In this episode, we are going to do electroplating and then build a new main bus. Enjoy! So as far as resources now, we did research the ability to make brass, which in IR3 requires a little bit of lead added to bronze. And of course, we could scrap it if we needed to. And that'll give us the ability to make just brass plates and brass gear wheels. And we might as well start up some research for what that goes into. That will give us, finally, an upgraded assembler, which is a steel frame, fast inserters, and then those brass gears. And we will take a look at them later. That also gives us access to an advanced crusher, which requires steel items and that diamond cutter. The diamond cutter is just a regular diamond with some of those brass gears. And an advanced mixer, which also requires it. Further, we can grind diamonds and rubies down into powder, and also make the highest tier repair kit from that. However, we really don't want to be using our rubies and diamonds because we can't really make them in any significant quantity until we can make new ones from these recipes here, and that will require the next research pack. As useful as this might be, it doesn't really matter because we just don't have that many items. 6 rubies and 6 diamonds. Oh, we had all these petrochem generators in here. I guess I didn't need to make more. Well, now we have more if we need them. In fact, turning that into a storage chest would probably do a lot of good, because then robots would actually have access to them. So, whoops. Since we only have a few diamonds and rubies, we would only ever want to make this machine if we needed it for something. And since we don't right now, there's kind of no point in making it. Also, the same applies with lasers here, where we can make a pulse laser with a couple of items, but the main one is the ruby rod, which requires rubies. And then if we did that, we would get access to the laser assembler, which gives us different ways of making circuits. But because we don't actually need it right now, there's kind of no point in going down there. Now that we'll have access to brass, we can make the express transport belts. So sure. And that'll give us the express loader and the stacker. There's really no reason to go down cryogenics right now. It would allow us to make steel foam, and then that would go into electronics 3. But again, without the chrome analysis packs, there's kind of no point in going down all of that. So the last thing we can do is the rocket turret. Not sure if we're going to use it, but it does require that brass. Okay, well, we need to make some brass. And we probably want to do it based on the amount of bronze that we're making. And it's not very much. And we probably want to stack them like we're stacking everything else. But do we really need to make 60 of them a second? Probably not. Well, the brass plates only make brass gears. And the brass gears do go into some things, but we probably won't need to make them at a very fast rate. So I don't think we need to go nuts here. And how many of these plates do we actually need? We do need quite a few ingots there. So how about we do 30 of each type, just to be ready for the future. So we'll come in here, make a new line, and say that we want to make 30 of the brass. Got to make it in the correct furnace with the right modules. And we need to make bronze as well. We'll hit this to say see all products so we can make an additional request here and say we want to have 30 of these, and it's red because we're making more than we otherwise would need for the recipe. And how does that look? It's pretty decent. Certainly a modest setup here. And really, it's going to look pretty much identical to this. It's going to have 2 inputs and 1 output. So how many is this in total? 96. So how about we just do 2 of them? So there's kind of a lot we need to capture in here. We'll grab this, and it barely fits, which makes me think we shouldn't try to smash it in there, and instead maybe come out here. But even then, the setups are going to be pretty big. But all of the ingots are going to be out here, so it kind of makes sense to make them all the way out here. And it is neat to see the airships just kind of doing their thing. Oh, hey, we're actually getting deliveries of those resources now. Okay, we need to make one of these as the big one. And this is a decent spot for it. Now that we're here pulling this belt out, maybe we will use the airship. So it would be somewhere in here. Sure. Pull out all the stuff. And that should be everything. So let's see how this all gets split up. It should work. Sure seems like it. So now it all goes in. And the bronze is coming out the other side. Now we need to do half of this. Let's just let robots fill all that in if they have access to it. More belt in the way. But now we need to do the same thing. The numbers aren't quite as crazy as before, but I kind of just want to copy what we've already done instead of spend too much time worrying about it. So we'll just do this, line it up, get it in the zone. I guess we could place more concrete down. I didn't want to place more over here because we're still really grinding through all of that old stuff. But we can place new stuff just fine. And I guess we can get some extra resources here by picking all this up, so we don't need it anymore. Making pollution, but oh well. And looks like we're just about to be filled up on science. So I suppose that means we need to start dumping the sour gas. Sadness. Basically, the vent will be exactly the same as this. Except that we might need to have a few of them. So how about we put it right here, in case that is the case. So there we go, venting sour gas away at 12 pollution a minute. How much can it actually get rid of? 25. Is that anywhere close to enough? Oh no. Not in the slightest. Let's do something like this then. That's going to be so much pollution. But what can you do? That's creating a lot right here. But it is enough to drop the sour gas down. So once this gets to 80, it should kind of calm down. There we go. So it's not so crazy anymore, and everything will balance out. Seems like it basically is. Lots of robots. Come in here. Quickly replace all of this. This one right there needs to be the lead. And really, it's only going to go this direction for now. So we can pick up this entire belt. It was a pretty messy one, so I'm glad to get rid of it. Well, it looks like we're making ethanol as fast as we essentially can, and it's not enough, at least right now, so the regular power plant had to turn on. Seems like crude oil is just kind of running low. Yeah, that basically makes sense, that the output of this is just decreasing. I guess we'll leave it for now. It's fine. It only becomes a problem if we actually run out. We do have a lot of robots running around right now. Well, now that we have the lead set up properly, it can come in here, and that belt is going to be a lot shorter than it was. Okay, seems to be connected. And there's the achievement. And it's getting stacked away. Let's see here, the ingredients for this is actually 12.5, so it needs to be a red belt. Although it's an alloy, it's mostly using the bronze. So there we go, production increased. Cool, all that research is done. So let's finish up the list here. Of course, we've got these loaders, but mainly we're here for the transport belts that now require lubricant. Otherwise, the recipe is fairly similar, so we should be able to do something similar to what we did. And I guess we'll just leave all the spaces in here since we built it before and it works. So we'll switch these to blue first and see what changes. Probably not a whole lot. I mean, it is kind of different in that we need to get these gears in here, and the color of them has changed, so it's going to get increasingly messy in here. So how to get the brass in here? Well, I kind of want to just shoot it in through the top. But another thing is that we really don't need this wood at all for anything anymore. So let's search ingredient and just straight up wood. It's only needed to make our railroad tracks. That is it at this point. Otherwise, we're just turning it into fuel. So what it means is we could actually put the brass on this belt. So unfortunately, even though it went all the way down here, it didn't really need to. And it can merge up here instead. We still need it to come down here. But the brass can come all the way along the top. And again, that does make it a little cleaner in here. So we'll unstack it right there. Split the directions. And then we got some belts to clear out. Now that that's taken care of, the brass should be readily available. So all that gets switched to brass. They get their inserters. Then we should slowly start seeing things be made. Still need red circuits on this, but we so happen to have them right here, so we don't have to deliver them by hand anymore. Not sure if this is going to go anywhere more, but inserter right there to take care of it. Okay, we're making them. So many items on our list now that we need to just take care of. Well, probably don't need to be following circuits anymore. That'll save some spaces. And of course, we want them in our inventory, and that will continue. One thing we don't really need anymore are any of these transfer plates here, because we just aren't using them anymore with our robot logistics. The only time we would need it is if we're dropping items off. And we don't really use our inventory to mule things anymore. So pretty much all of these can be removed. We still kind of are right here. But I think the main use of these transfer plates is getting rid of junk still. So we kind of are using them to an extent. There's the rocket turrets, but we don't really need to make those. So the only other thing here is the advanced assembler. And we can kind of compare the stats. That it's twice as fast for twice the energy consumption. We probably should request those brass gears in our inventory, because it seems like we're going to need them for stuff. I don't know if we're at the point of wanting to automate assemblers yet, because we just don't use them in that big of quantities. So now that we're getting our gears, we can start making these things. And do we want to replace our entire factory with them? I guess that depends. Is there anything special about them? As it turns out, yes. They have additional slots. That does give us some additional options. It doesn't make it any more efficient, but it does give us the opportunity to put more speed modules in there. So let's say we did a speed and 3 efficiencies, then its crafting speed is plus 30% and negative 60 to energy consumption. So it does make it significantly faster. So the main thing is just having more of the productivity modules in there. So we do want them. So it's time for module inserter again, and say advanced assemblers, if possible. Put in the productivity modules, and if not, you can do mostly efficiencies, but put a speed in there just to make it faster. And also we can make one of these small assemblers. It's twice as fast. However, it doesn't have an additional module slot, so it's not as useful. Nonetheless, we'll put them in there with productivity and then efficiency. So this is probably going to reduce the speed even more. So let's compare it. That with the 2 modules, it's 0.56, and with the 4, it's 0.465. So slower, but more efficient, which is the good thing. So assuming speed is not a problem, there's really no reason for us to change out any of these machines for now, especially because we would be handcrafting them. But certainly, with our science packs, we'd want to upgrade them, and running out of resources. They seem to be more or less the same as the other models, just a slightly different color, but it's worth it for those productivity modules for sure. Well, with that, we have basically done everything that we have access to, and now we need to enter a new age, the age of electroplating, or you can call it the chrome age. This is when things get significantly different than they are now. First, we get access to the electroplater, which takes the electroplating fluid and then applies it to items. So we can make the chrome plating solution with nickel and chromium, and that'll be a great use of all that nickel we have, and lots of sulfuric acid. And we can make gold plating solution by just adding gold. And the way that this works, and what makes it different from the previous age, is now we need to make the steel items, and then we take that item and we electroplate it. So no longer can we use our line of machines here where it picks up ingots, makes the item, and then shoots it into the machine. Because there is going to be the additional step of electroplating, and it has to go through that electroplater, which is a larger machine. And this applies to everything. So the rods, the rivets, and then we can make the reinforced steel plate in the same way, but it requires the chrome items. Same with the piston, same with the beam. At least now it doesn't require the steel beam anymore. And we can make the small chromed frame. And we can take regular wire with the gold solution and gold plate them. And we can also make a gold mirror plate from a chromed plate. And finally, we essentially need the chromed beams to make the analysis packs. And it unlocks all sorts of things. But we need to work on this first. And we've gotten to this point making our minibus work. But now, because things are going to be so much different, it's just not practical to use the minibus anymore. And that's fine, because this is going to unlock the high-tier machines. And eventually, we're really going to not want to make much of this low-tier stuff anymore. So it's actually fine that we're kind of at the point of replacing the minibus. But we don't want to go nuts and build a super main bus. Oh, that's not connected. Because we don't know which of these items we're still going to want. So when we're building our main bus here, we should only build it with respect to the things we need right now that we otherwise couldn't put on our bus, which is essentially the electroplating stuff. After all of this, we would need to have the electroplating solution, and that is within the realm of what we can do. It's quite a lot, but we could do it. So I think we actually have a build here. It's a very long one, but first thing we need to do is make the solution. And instead of sending 2 belts of nickel and chromium all over the place, how about we just send some sulfuric acid up, and then we can make the solution, and then send that where it needs to go. This seems like as good a place as any to do it. This is going to be a huge use of our sulfur and sour gas, so hopefully we won't have to vent it anymore. And we'll need a tank to store all of this. Let's just let it fill up all the way. And that should be everything. So in it goes. And that smoke isn't going to be a problem. These inserters are kind of having trouble picking these up because of how fast the belt's moving, which does happen if there's a big mismatch. But it seems like it's going okay, although I think we need to have faster stackers in here. It would be nice to have an indicator on there. There we go. Seems like it filled up okay. Okay, we have a build here. It's got a couple of steps to it. First is pulling in the ingots and making the steel items, and then it will be electroplating them into the base components. And then kind of a third step here is taking those electroplated items and then turning them into the complex ones. And have we finished with all that concrete? Almost. We have been grinding this stuff away for a long time. We're still not quite there, and of course we've got a ton of junk in there to clear out. But we need to start our electroplating, and because this is so different from our minibus here, it's time to actually make a main bus. And oh wow, we're at 0.1% of stone, so we should probably take care of that too. Yeah, let's do that real quick. But as far as where this main bus should go, it's going to be a much more traditional main bus, so we'd want to have lots of space. And ideally, it would be close to where all the ingots are being made, right here. So we can really put it anywhere, but ideally we wouldn't go over anything too important. And there really isn't much right here. So how about we kind of start it right here and then go up from there. We don't really have to worry about cliffs or anything. It's just a question of how many resources we're going to need to clear everything out. But if we're just about cleared through all of that concrete, we're going to be making more. So we definitely want to change our stone mine around. And it'll probably be easier just to walk there. Interestingly, we're almost filled up on natural gas, and we should be trying to process through all of it, and we are actually. Every one of these plants is going at full speed, so perhaps we need more of them, but it's fine. We're basically consuming oil at the maximum rate that our setup can do in order to just reduce the amount of coke that we're using for power. So as long as it doesn't clog, it's fine. Now this is a longer walk than I thought it would be. Maybe I should have taken the car. Okay, we'll just put that on the list. Get rid of lots of trees. And I guess we'll just kind of max this out. Uh-oh. Stuff is getting destroyed. Well, it's a good thing we're up here, I guess, even though we're really not that close. Perhaps we need to extend the robot network all the way up here so they will automatically repair and replace these things. Of course, we could make the wall stronger too. Man, it's such a walk to get up here. Just so happened that they're all the way out here in the corner. Oh, there's a lot of biters out there. Oh, man. We are not doing much damage. Wow. Alright, help us, robots. Whew. We'll strengthen this up a bit. And unfortunately, we don't have any walls in our inventory. But I think we just need some stone for that. Of course, there's no stone out here. And it's not like the pollution is out here, I just think the biters aren't very happy anymore. On our plan here, we did have access to the faster assemblers. So we really should have been using those. Okay, this old mine is gone now. So we can clear it out. And just send a new belt because it is sufficiently close for this. And we don't need that anymore. Get most of this hooked up at least. Probably should carry some of these walls around now, because we might need them. So how are we doing? We still got some stone bricks to pound through there. Otherwise, we are making progress. So as far as how big of a bus to make, we don't really know, because we haven't really made any specific plans. Let's turn that field manager off. So in this case, we're probably just going to be sort of guessing. And actually, a lot of times when you don't know, you can just build on one side of the bus and just keep using belts and then at some point decide where the other half will be. So who knows? We do have some stuff going on here, so let's just call this the beginning of the bus. And like most main buses, there'll be belts going through. However, we do have access to the express underground belt, which means the maximum distance is going to be 8 squares. So it would be something like this. And to help us align belts for the future, we can use these hazard concretes here, which would just go up and down like that. And we definitely have trees in the way. So basically, it would be something sort of like this. And however many belts wide, we would just keep sending it to the side. But for now, we can just sort of keep it here and go up and see how much space it takes. So the easy way to do this for now is to just grab a bunch of them. And go up. And clear out any space as required. We are going to need to get some belts in here. But we also do have a bit of a gap, so we can just come straight through. Currently, the only thing we're actually going to need, as far as materials right now, is steel. And our factory is based around one yellow belt. Oh hey, look at that. We're actually going through all these random items now. Awesome. Okay, we need to make some steel items. Well, the first one would be, looks like that plan hasn't updated though. There we go. We could do a 2-to-1 ratio here, but that might make the setup just obnoxiously large to do it in that way. I mean, we could. It would just be kind of weird. And are we making electroplaters yet? Seems not, because it looks expensive. So before we go any further, let's start making those. So large steel frames and advanced motors. The large frames are right here, and we're just kind of shooting them in there. But we could actually continue this, surprisingly. They use essentially the exact same things. And now we are making the electroplaters. Let's make the 10 of them for now. I'm hesitant to put too much more on this because eventually we'll be able to put all these machines on our main bus here. So for now, we just have to survive and making lots of junk now of all types. Uh-oh, they broke through again. Where's the car at? Next to gold. So we potentially could do a 2-to-1 ratio here, depending on how we want to work this. It would be super large if it was something like this. It would require twice as many inserters, but it could be something like that instead. But I'm thinking I'd rather just have them kind of smushed together. And if we need more machines, we need more machines. And the great thing about the electroplater, like everything else, is you don't have to set a recipe. You just put the correct solution in there and some items, and it makes them. So instead of belting things like steel rods and plates, we'll just make them right here and shoot them in. And the pipes could be top or bottom. Let's just assume bottom. And another thing we want to consider is how are we going to get the ingots in here? Because we need to unstack them. We could do it like we've been doing everywhere else, where we unstack them as required and put them on a belt. But this time I kind of want to try something different. It's going to require a lot of stackers for this. But what if we unstack them directly before putting them into the machine? That would mean that we can bus the stacked ingots and not have any throughput issues on any of these lines. And like everything else, you don't have to set a recipe either, but that can be a problem. If you have a mixed belt with two different types of stacked ingots, then you need to make sure you use a filtered inserter for that. But right now we won't have to deal with that, and because we only need this one machine, we can actually smush this down by quite a bit. And because they're 1x1s, they have to be one space apart. We can do something like this, where the belt comes in, first gets unstacked, then it's made into the plate, and then this needs to be shot in, but actually maybe we should do the pipe on the other side instead. Not that it matters too much, but that way we can use a short distance inserter, kind of like that. And it'll be a fun little zigzag, but it'll get into the machine that way. And of course there's plenty of room for power poles as we need them. And in fact, one power pole will cover all of this. And then we'll need to take care of this, putting the completed items on that belt, and we do want them as completed items, I'm guessing, because we're going to need steel plates individually, but also as they go into these other items, so they do need to be bussed. Let's do this so the power poles can be even, and that seems pretty good. So now that we know, let's kind of move it down, and I usually like to do 2 spaces away, about like that. And how many of these are we going to need? A total of 24. In fact, we might want to have just one on each side. That might perhaps be easier. And this just barely fits in here, but of course it won't when we need to move things around. And essentially this is going to be the space between all these setups, because it needs to be, because that's the size of the rubber port range. Okay, looking good. We can flip it around now to cover the other side. And we're right about at the point where we're going to need a lot of these stackers. But I don't know if I want to make them quite yet, at least on the main bus. Robots to the rescue. Are we still crushing things away in the scrapper? Nope. That's because it's full. And because we're keeping things in stacked form, this will be easy to implement. So let's make a bunch of chromed plates. It's a very funny sound and look to it, but they're quite fast, and in fact, this is going to be 30 a second. So we should probably make this blue, and then we can keep it red right here. But it's going, using 300 solution a second, which does require all this to fire up. And hopefully we'll start using up all of that nickel. Fortunately though, all of these stackers do have to fill up with 100 ingots at a time, which is kind of annoying. That is a huge buffer of materials. But I do want to try something new here, so we'll put up with it for now and see how it works. So I was wondering why it was taking so long for all these to fill up, but that setup looks pretty good, so we can check those off the list. Now we need to do rods and rivets. The rivets are made from the rods, but otherwise they are both processed in the same way. So the setup won't quite be the same here, because there's no reason to be bussing these steel rods or rivets around when really we just want to bust the chromed ones, because that's the thing that is difficult to make here. Man, we went through that chrome fast, because just like that, we went below 750, which caused the washing method to turn on, and it's working hard. So our overload will be over soon. Okay, this next one is relatively straightforward. We need a lot less machines, but we still want to build it in such a way where it could be expanded like this, but we probably won't have to do it double wide like this. And in this situation, it is actually a 1-to-1 ratio. We probably want to keep them like 4 apart, because that's the size of the rubber port, so if we ever needed to put another one in here, it would have to be 4 spaces big. And that would essentially be the 6. Actually, we could still keep it basically the same size, and I kind of want to try if possible. So how about we put it with a side insert here, And it can just go under like that. And that should work. Let's reverse this. Like that. Not only is it more symmetrical, but then that lets the belt go under. And can all of this reach with one pull? So there we go. Another set that basically fits in the same gap. But we might want more of these, so we should probably place it in its own area. So we'll pick it up. We want another 6 of them. Let's leave some gaps. Unfortunately, that gap of 4 does not leave room for the power poles to go through, at least with where we placed it. So we got to put another one in there. And we can keep the solution going. I do like how that looks. It's quite symmetrical looking. Hopefully everything's lined up correctly. Because we don't have to worry about unstacking all of these, we can just send them straight in, and we don't have to do anything else. So some more bubbles. And the chrome is disappearing, and we're actually building up some platinum now. It does kind of suck having these buffers in here, but at least if there's throughput issues, it can actually hold out for a long time. Not sure if that's the best idea, but it looks cool. So let's go with that. Okay, well that was good. Same thing. Now making the rivets. Oh, lots of bubbles, lots of rivets. Cool. So, technically, that ends all of the electroplating. Now we can take our fresh new items and bust them up. And there we go. Looking good. And if we need to expand them, we can just go down the line there. But we could potentially save space on our bus since we need these in such few quantities by putting 2 different items on one belt. It's a little annoying moving them around, but you certainly can do that. Looks like we have finally finished all of that junk, which is awesome because that means more concrete. And probably should place it here as well. Well, there's a similarity on these 2 items because they both need plates and rivets. It's just one makes a reinforced plate and the other one makes the frame. And this time it's going to be weird that there's no small assemblers going into these. It's just the items. We probably should speed these up with speed modules, which does change these numbers a bit, but oh well. Individually, these are all going to require quite a few resources, so you should probably do a red belt. That should be the items we need. So in they go. And they're getting made. So, 2 more off the list here. So we throw everything in there. And, looks like I got these on the wrong belt, so that's fine. Just kind of make them look similar. Looks like this inserter is not quite fast enough, but I think we're okay for now. That gets it taken care of, which means we have all of our chromed items now. And nickel is reducing quite quickly. And we have a pretty simple setup. It's basically just routing all the resources in here. And since we are switching things to a new bus, we probably shouldn't move things like advanced motors, because those can be relatively easily made anywhere. But other things, like the circuits, they're actually pretty locationally dependent. So for now, we probably shouldn't mess with them. Okay, then that means we're going to need some advanced motors, which with those speed modules makes it only one machine. Are those the kind of things we're going to want? Well, they are the highest tier, and they do go into things like assemblers. So yeah, it definitely seems like that's the kind of thing that we would need a bunch of. And that's one more fluid to awkwardly route up here. It's actually a pretty dense set of machines right there. Ah, we needed copper cable too. I didn't see that. That is a little problematic. And there's a lot going on in here. I think it's good, but that does mean we need to get copper in here now. Luckily, it's right here, like pretty much everything else. So let's see if it works. It seems like it is. Having that on one side of the belt seems fine. Okay then, let's start making the science packs. Do we want to try to reuse the existing setup? Yeah, probably. We do have to change it a little bit with respect for the stackers. And smush it together. And actually, this is a situation where we have to be careful because we're going to have 2 different types of materials on the belt. We're going to have the copper and the tin. So if we don't have filter inserters, they're just going to pick up whatever they want to and throw it in here. And that would be bad. So we need to set this ahead of time, which is a small annoyance, but what can you do? That it needs to pick up tin ingots. This one needs to do copper. And let's space them out so it's nice and consistent. And that ought to do the job. So for now, we just need 4 of them. And we might as well do essentially the same thing with the green packs. These will require the iron beams and the reinforced bronze plates though. So the assembly part is actually quite easy. Where it's basically this, with 2 belts of inputs, whatever they so happen to be, and another set of machines. Fortunately, that guy looks like it's going to be in the way. We're going to have to move it. We're going to need the reinforced bronze plates and the iron beams. So let's have our 4 gaps in there. Let's really extend this out here. Well, since science is the only thing that reinforced bronze plates go into, let's calculate for that. We need 2 machines. We could attempt to do some kind of direct insertion, but whatever. What about the iron beams? They do kind of go into things, so we would want to make those and put them on the bus. Nonetheless, let's calculate for them. First, we need 2 machines making these plates, and they're basically already doing the same thing here. Let's try to copy it in. So another giant belt. And in they go. These only need to go down here, so we potentially could just honestly send them straight down. And then the beams, well, we've already made them, so we can see what we can do about copying it. And in they go. Oh, those don't reach. Oh, we gotta move these down. There we go. Probably spending a lot of electricity stacking and unstacking things now. Well, not really, compared to roboports anyway. But there we go, making some items. That's going to be half of what we need for this. The other half is the glass, which is another item we need to send up here. And actually, that's one thing we haven't really stacked yet. But for now, we'll just kind of patch that in. Although we do need to have room in here for the unstackers. And since I didn't put that in here, I guess we'll just do it the traditional way for this one section. So how that works is we have 2 things here. And we have to find room for the stacker somewhere, like this. And the other item we're going to need are these beams, but we have 2 different items on this belt, so we have to be a little careful. Where first we have a splitter, splitting everything apart, and then a second one, splitting only the item we actually want, which are the beams. And then that item goes to the side. So it works like that. So beams are in and glass is in just in time. And there it goes. Making green packs, and we do have a few extra ones, so there we go. Alright, we still need to get the tin in here, so 1 more belt yet again. Let's do some beltception here by having these hop over each other because they're different colored belts. Okay, let's see how our filter inserters work. They work great, making the red packs. Okay then, now we're basically down to the good stuff. We do need to make steel beams, so we'll need 6 beams per second. That does make it, but we'll probably want them for other things as well. So we basically need to copy the exact same thing. It is absolutely fantastic how these recipes don't really change, just the ingredients. So in goes all of the steel. Let's claim this belt right here. So 1 needs to go down and 1 needs to go up. And make a splitter for the iron now. Everything looks nice and clean. So to do these, we'll have to remember to have the unstackers. So it'll be 1 belt with the bricks and another one with everything else, but unfortunately it goes right over the stackers. And the output is as normal. Oh, and those don't actually need to be long-handed. So we need to get both types of circuits and the blocks on here. Probably can save a belt by just sending both circuits on one. And in they go. Working away. And then the final setup, the new one, working on the chrome packs, is similar, except we're not going to have to unstack anything. We have all of these items already on belts, so we can just bring them in. So our little splitter is basically this, except now it's the red ones. We need those motors, which are all the way down here. And those beams, which are also all the way down here. There's only one item on this belt, but we might want to prepare for a future where there's two. So let's set it up as such. So there we go. That should be everything we need to make our first purple pack. And of course, we get an achievement. Looking good. Well, we're going to need some more bus lanes here. Let's go with 2 more for now. Well, now we have officially replaced all of our science setups, which means we can trash our inventory and pick them all up. Now a lot of stuff doesn't need to be here anymore. And we don't need these either, which cleans up all of that. Finally, we don't need the science belt. And it's time to move the labs. Of course, now science packs are finding their way everywhere. And it would be nice to have some dumps for these packs now. And here are our science packs. We'll want to have twice as many of these. Although it's worth seeing if we can set this up to handle 3 belts now. Seems like that does it. Might want to have some spaces in here for power poles though. And let's leave a few more spaces on top of that, just in case we need them. I think that gets all of them. We originally had 8, and we're doubling up to 16 of them. And now, it's just a question of sending it all in. I don't know if we'll want to have all of the explosive packs on that one belt, but for now we'll just leave them. So this should be able to grab from every belt. Looks like it. The cycle is complete now, and we're actually running down on the nickel. Okay then, what do we want to do next? However, that's going to have to wait until the next episode. Thanks for watching, and I will see you later.